took me a bit longer than I wanted to finish Oathbringer, but I finally did by the end of December and by the end of 2024. So, Oathbringer. This book was really intimidating for me, mainly because it was even longer than Words of Radiance. It looked huge, whether it was in paperback or hardcover. I was like, there is so many pages in Oathbringer. I really hope I can kind of keep up the momentum of reading the Stormlight Archive, finishing each book in about a month time. Keep in mind that I am reading other books while I'm reading this, so this wasn't my only book that I'm reading at one time, and it did take me longer than I wanted, but I still had a great time with it. There were definitely certain parts that dragged in the middle, like the middle third. I was like, okay, this is definitely slowing down. I felt like it started great, really slowed down in the middle third. Last third, I think I was at like 60 some percent, and I was like, there's no way that the Sanderlanche can be this early. It wasn't, but that's when it started to pick up and like get me the same vibes of like, I want to keep reading this, I want to keep finding out what happens next, I want to keep spending time with these characters. Like I said in previous videos, the Stormlight Archive books have a cast of like a bunch of characters, but each one feels like one particular character's book. The Way of Kings was obviously an introduction to the Stormlight Archive, introduction to this world, so we met all of our characters that we're going to be that we follow in the later books, but the Way of Kings definitely felt like a Kaladin book. He seemed more of the main character, even as there was other characters as well. Words of Radiance was arguably, I think it was very much about Shallan. Kaladin too, we definitely had a lot of that. Kaladin and Shallan were like the stars of Words of Radiance, which I loved. But Oathbringer, this is Dalinar's book. This is absolutely Dalinar's book. He goes through it. He like goes through it, like his past, his memories. We learn some really not good things about Dalinar in this book, but what we learn, it makes him such a dynamic character, and one that like you still can't help but root for, even though he did horrendous things in his past. Beyond Dalinar being put to the test, every other character is also really pushed to their limits in this book, especially in like the last third. I can't even like put into proper words like how much growth has happened for each and every character from the Way of Kings up into Oathbringer. It's hard to believe that like they're going to go through more in Rhythm of War and then eventually in Wind and Truth. It is, I mean, these books continue to just be a feat of storytelling. They feel so real, they feel so immersive and relatable, and I can't help but just give each one of them 5 stars, 6 stars, like infinity stars. Speaking of a star rating, for the longest time I was like, is Oathbringer going to be the Brandon Sanderson book that I give 4 stars to, or like 4.5 stars instead of 5? No, it's 5 stars. By the end of it, I'm like, yeah, this was a 5-star read. I mean, other people have said it better, and they've said it a ton of times. I've said it before, but like, Brandon Sanderson just has this way of giving you so much information, so much detail, world building, magic system, everything, and you're like doubting yourself while you're reading because it's so intricate, it's so complex, and you feel like you can't keep up. You feel like you don't know where all this is going, and it can't possibly end in a way that's like entertaining. It can't possibly, like, you can't possibly like come to the end of a 1,000+ page book and be like, I remember everything that went on this book, I understand the plot of it, like, I get it. But by the end, I'm like, no, I get it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, I remember that from like 500 pages ago. I don't know how he does it. It's got to be like literal magic. I'm honestly just impressed with myself that like in 2024 I read like 3,000+ pages of his books. Well, more than that because I read the original Mistborn trilogy, but like I have no words. Like this is just an amazing book series, and I'm so glad that like I'm alive to experience this. Anyway, Oathbringer, again, 5 stars, infinity stars, so good. Not my favorite of the Stormlight Archive. Words of Radiance still has my heart. But I'm really excited to continue the Stormlight Archive. I am taking a little bit of a break at the beginning of 2025. I'm going to read some, silly little romances, some romantasy, palette cleansers, and then I will read Dawnshard and then get to Rhythm of War. I think after Rhythm of War, I will take a break, like a longer break from the Stormlight Archive, so I can read the standalone Cosmere books and get to Mistborn Era 2, which I am so excited about.